Hello everybody. The terrain videos haven't been a huge hit that I'd be hoping for, so we're going to try something a little different. I'm going to go over some tactics I use with the Ultramarines to win battles in 8th edition. 8th edition is very different than other editions. You have stratagems and points that you spend to make your army better, called command points. And everybody complains that the Space Marines don't have any good command points. Now, I will say, while generally that's true, they do have one of the strongest command points in the game, and for 3 command points. And the first thing you need is a captain. Every army should have a captain. And this is to replace Robert Gilliman. Instead of Robert Gilliman, who's like 350 points, you can use these combinations to achieve results for about half that amount. And they almost do the exact same thing, if not better. So here is my Ultramarine captain. Here is his point cost here. 81 points. And I just kind of keep them basic. I give him a mastercrafted bolt gun and I give him a power sword, because really he's not going to be doing much except for giving buffs to dudes. If he gets into close combat, something's probably gone wrong. So he's a pretty cool model that I pretty recently painted. And then you want to spend 3 command points at the beginning of the battle for this stratagem, Chapter Master. Now that stratagem, normally he lets friendly units within 6 inches reroll 1s. For 3 command points, he can let the guys within 6 inches reroll all misses. This is huge, as rerolling 1s is already a big advantage. But now they get to reroll 2s also, and then heavy weapons, well, they wouldn't get to reroll 3s, but they could reroll some of their other rolls. But also it helps with Overwatch. You have double the chances to do Overwatch damage. And the other must take is the Company Ancient here. And he lets guys, when they die, if they're within 6 inches, and this guy's the unit. Only one guy in the unit has to be within 6 inches. This guy, the dying guy, has to be within 6 inches, so it's not quite as far a bubble, but on a 4-up, he lets them shoot their guns before they die, or make 1 attack in close combat. This is huge, as in your opponent's turn, as he's killing your guys, you can kill him back, which no other ability lets you do that. And so before, you'd want to save your heavy weapons and pull them out last. Sometimes I pull them out first just so they can shoot and do more damage. And it all depends on the scenario. So that guy is 75 points. He's actually a little cheaper. I gave him some extra stuff because I had extra points. So I gave him a power fist. You don't have to give him a power fist. He's about like 15 points or something cheaper. But then you give him this relic, Standard of the Emperor Ascendant. And that relic lets guys shoot before they die on a 3-up. And so you have a greater than 50% chance of them getting to shoot before they die. And it's re-rollable with command points, so you can re-roll one of them. So anytime a heavy weapon dies, they should be shooting before they die. Which again, this is just punishing in all sorts of scenarios, especially like an overheating scenario. You can get a lot of extra shots on an overheated gun. They could potentially shoot 3 times when their gun overheats. Instead of just dying, they get to shoot a ton more. So these two guys are great, and I'll show you how I set up, and I'll give you a couple other hints. I'll set up my army, and then I'll come back and explain why I set up that way. Okay, I'm back. I got my army all ready to set up. The next thing, if you have the points, another nice HQ choice is a lieutenant, who also grants, he lets them do a reroll on ones to wound. And a lot of things, plasma's really good and supercharging's really good with these guys that let you reroll if you die, or gets to fire if he dies, and lets you reroll your misses. So he lets you reroll ones to wound, with which plasma, if you supercharge it, is going to be wounding most things on a 2. But you'd be surprised how many times 1 comes up. So that's a really handy guy to have around. Usually I'll put him in the front, kind of like shielding the captain or ready to intercept, but inside that bubble. And then the next unit I've been using, which they're an elite choice, is the veteran bodyguards. And plasma is really strong in this edition, and in a 4-man squad, you could have 3 plasma guns and 1 combi plasma, which combi is really good in this edition too. They can either shoot the plasma or they can shoot the bolter, and if they shoot them both, they only get -1 to hit penalty, which is nothing. That means they're hitting on a 4+, and they could shoot potentially 4 shots, so if they're in rapid fire range. So that is huge. Now I don't have a combi weapon for this sergeant. These guys are actually pretty good in close combat too. They actually have the choice to get a bolter and a chain sword. So that's what I do with this squad. I have 1 extra meat shield, then I have the sergeant, and then I have the bodyguard. But they have an ability to where if they want to try to take out your leaders, because snipers can target characters, and there's some other abilities, but as long as these dudes are within 6 inches of a character, I believe, it might be 3, either 3 or 6 inches, on a 2+, they can take the wound for the character. So instead of dropping in and assassinating your guy that lets you re-roll, they'll have to kill these guys first, which will then get to shoot back at them with their plasma guns. So they drop in a unit of snipers. They shoot. First you want to do your aspect scan, hopefully with these plasma guys, which is 2 stratagem points, or 2 command points, which again you could get some of those back if you take the warlord trait, where you get to on a 5 or 6 you get your stratagem back. That's the one I always take. So you drop in, you do your aspect scan, you shoot them, then they're going to try to shoot your leader. You get to use your leader's invulnerable 4+ save. If he fails, then these dudes get to suck up wounds and then get to shoot back before they die. So that is huge. They're not going to be able to assassinate your leader that way. Now the next guy I will say I like to take is this apothecary. In the past, apothecaries weren't great. In this edition, he's only 55 points. I just keep him basic. He can bring guys back from the dead on a 4+. If he brings back 2 special weapons or 2 heavy weapons in a game, he's easily earned his points. Plus, those dudes are going to kill a lot more points too. So he's really a force multiplier. And again, at 55 points, not a bad pickup. I tried to get 9 command points at the start of the game. I get 3 for the standard battle forged. I get 5 for the big force organization, and then I get 1 extra because of the elite choice. This is 1 elite choice. That's another elite choice, and then the standard is the 3rd elite choice. And then you have to have your leaders, which the other leader I use is the librarian. But the next thing I wanted to talk about is sometimes this army can get bogged down in mobility. So there's two ways to combat this. One, you got your squad of Joe Schmoes here, and a lot of times if it's a objective game, I'll split them up, and I'll have the plasma gun and the plasma cannon back here with the two meat shield marines like this. And again, I color code the bases. I find that helps when removing casualties. And then I'll have the 4 guys and the sergeant going forward to get objectives. And also sometimes I'll use them as a screen too, depending, because a 10-man squad can be good, but it can also be bad. So generally speaking, I'll split them into 5. Then these dudes can get the re-rolls. These ones can go forward and get objectives. And usually I do this with, anytime it's an objective game, I do this with all my squads. And then I have my librarian go forward with these 5-man squads to give them buffs and to help them get objectives. The next thing I wanted to talk about is Devastator squads. I always take 2 squads of Devastators. They are also really strong this edition. They're the same points cost as a normal Marine, but they get to get 4 heavy weapons. So I always do plasma cannons in one of my squads. So there they are, 4 plasma cannons. And then on the sergeant, I do have a combat weapon on him. He has a combat plasma. So each cannon does D3 shots, which is a ton of shots, and then they can supercharge, so they do 2 wounds each. I'd say on average these dudes are dishing out 10 wounds at strength 8, -3 to armor. And so they're kind of like for characters and tanks and all sorts of things. The next squad I really like is like a squad of missile Devastators, and missile launchers are just great this edition too. And then they can either do D6 shots each or do damage D6, so they're really versatile. They can either take out troops or tanks. And again, I gave the leader a combat plasma. He lets one guy hit on a 2. It's pretty strong. And so then, like I said too, I'll split up almost all the squads. Usually maybe I'll have one squad that's not split up. So I'll put the plasma gun and the plasma cannon by the leaders, and then I'll have these combat troops ready to go march up the board and to suck up shots too and prevent deep strike. And then the other thing I want to talk about is I used to use Terminators for deep striking, but just an assault squad is a lot quicker and more efficient. So either I'll deep strike these guys in, or I'll have them running up with the objective grabbers, and they're basically just to give this army some mobility, because all these dudes are not gonna move. And then these guys have the option of moving. These guys are going to be grabbing objectives, and so on and so forth. And then I have another squad too. So this is actually a 1,500 point squad or army. I got 3 squads of 10. I have the bodyguards. I have 2 squads of 6 of the Devastators. I have a squad of 5 jump packs with, I think only the leader has a power sword. I have the librarian, and then I have like a few upgrades. But really in this edition you want lots of troops as a secret. So try out those stratagems. Any size army, those are the 2 guys you need with that stratagem. And I don't like the lore that you're upgrading this guy to a chapter master. I mean, that's quite the honor, and who is this guy? But, I mean, really, that's just such a powerful stratagem to let you re-roll everything. And then the next up is always the lieutenant. And then, other than that, you got to make sure that you, the next guy up, I would say, is like an apothecary, and then like tons of troops, and get plasmas, plasmas, plasmas. All right, I hope this helps. Happy wargaming.